Tom. Hi, Armin. Sorry, guys. I streamed through a software, so when I was hi, Ashki. Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Stephanie. Yes, I am feeling better. I'm sorry, guys, on YouTube. I was a little bit late because I was trying. Basically, I streamed through a software, and I went into like that software to start the newscast. And what ended up happening is I went into an old newscast, and I was over here talking like, oh yeah, I'm on air. And then I realized that I definitely am not, very much so. Hi, Sherry. So, hi, Surfing. Hi, Taz. Hi, Kareen. Hi, Alan. Hi, Kat. Who did I miss? Hi, Nasta. Hi, Joe. Hi, Veronica. Hi, Joe. Hi, Vasilka. Hi, Darlene. And hi, Lauren. Also, hi, Taz here. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Sandra. Mariana has this little diamond next to her handle, and I'm wondering, what is that? That's so cool. Hi, Kayla. Hi, Gap. Oh my gosh. Fear my name. Ooh, hello. Is the news update or just a hello? It is a news update. Thank you to thank you, Show, for saying my earrings are cute. Thanks. I actually got them on at like one of those like street vendors in Brooklyn. Oh, hi. Hi, Notabotter. How was your trip? Welcome back to the US. Also, let me see what I can do with this light on YouTube. I feel like it's a little too harsh right now. But I was trying to put it kind of away from the camera because I do know that I've been screwing up a little, and you guys have been seeing the reflection in my glasses, and a lot of you said that it bothers you. Hi, Crazy Cat, and hi, April. Welcome. Welcome. So this is a news update, and today is actually packed with some incredible, well, not packed, but today I have seen a lot of incredible updates already. So one of the updates is that 30 NATO member states agreed unanimously on the need of granting Ukraine a membership in the alliance, which is such a big deal because, first of all, that means that some very questionable countries that have been flip floppy pro Russian, like Hungary, I'm looking at you, agreed on that as well. Which, again, this is a big deal because there have been some crazy things going on with Hungary in particular. So let's recap a little bit. I did talk about it in my Wednesday news brief. If you haven't watched it yet, you should. News briefs are a new section on my YouTube, and they are basically short summaries under 20 minutes of everything that happened in the past 24 hours instead of doing a live. That way, you guys don't sit through a 2-hour ordeal, and also that way I have more days off for editing. So here's the thing: in the news live, I mentioned that the commissioner for Hungary in Euro Parliament is being investigated, or rather, there has been a request for investigation from the European Commission by Euro Parliament because it looks like the Hungarian commissioner has been basically. Has been basically not blocking, but kind of like slowing down Ukraine's accession to the EU, and slowing down a lot of processes like that. And basically, he's reportedly has bias for other NATO country candidates. So he's being investigated for that. Then Viktor Orban recently said that Ukraine's territorial integrity is integral to European peace, which is strange because before this, he was taking a very pro-Russian position. He is an incredibly pro-Russian character, and he's also like a far-right fascist, to say the least. So there's been a lot of very interesting developments with Hungary, and I feel like Orban says things well based on like where the wind blows, but then their president is pro-Ukrainian, the mayor of Budapest is pro-Ukrainian. There has been like talk by the mayor of Budapest and by the president that the country is incredibly divided, and it's not what it looks like. Not the entirety of the country is pro-Russian, pro-Orban. So it does look like Hungary is going to be flip-flopping and making decisions that are seemingly quite seemingly quite like unlike it, or seemingly quite uncharacteristic for them. So thank you, Mountain Men. So that's something that's been on the radar. Also, Jahar Dudayev is asking me on Twitch if I have moved. No, I mean, yes, I have moved from my living room into my bedroom, and I am doing the news here because I just figured I would shift the news room a little bit, because I do love my living room and I do love the setup in my living room. I do love my paintings. I feel like they make my environment look much more professional, but also my dog is going through some stuff right now and I kind of want her to be in the living room on the couch doing her own thing while I'm doing the news without her disturbing me. Thank you, Todd, and thank you, Mariana. While, I love my dog, Cindy has been incredibly unbearable in the past 48 hours because she's going through those days of the year where she is in heat, and so she is slightly difficult to deal with. So I am just I'm just letting her sleep while she's asleep. So now that we've covered that, I am going to unplug my whoop. I'm going to unplug my computer without hopefully disturbing anything that's going on over here, which it's definitely going to get disturbed. And I'm going to plug in my iPad, and we are going to start on the news today right after I ask you, how are you guys doing? How was your day, week, month? I have been so incredibly busy. With just things that yesterday I messaged my dad and he responded saying, "Oh, hello, lost soul." And I was like, oh my gosh, have I not spoken to you for that long? And it turns out I haven't messaged him in 5 days, which is incredibly long for me and my dad. So yeah, I have been very busy. You guys, if you watch the newscasts every day, you know about the paint incident that I had to spend like 2 hours cleaning up yesterday. You also know about Cindy. You know that John is back. So now, actually, before we started the news, I will give you a little bit of a personal update that I find incredibly funny. And oh, hi, Graham. Hi, Graham. Good to see you. And also, Kayla says, can I just say your background frame arrangement is beautiful? Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Actually, I spend a lot of time rearranging those frames, and there are some gaps in there that I want to fill, like that one, like these two basically. And that frame over there that actually gets cut off, but I will show it to you later, is a very, very cool painting of, not painting, but a very, very cool artwork of Lviv. So it's really fun, and my dad got it for me a long time ago. But yeah, oh, right there, here you can see it right here, that one. So yeah, but basically John is back, and I'm finding this very funny pattern where so basically you guys don't see me cooking because I don't like cooking for myself. I think it's way too much effort for one person, and it's so time consuming. I'd rather just like throw ravioli into a pan of boiling water and put some sour cream on it with pesto and be done with it. Yes, you can judge me away, but I can't eat anything like pierogi related without sour cream. But I do want some pesto. But basically, you guys like never see me cooking, and so I now cook a lot. I now cook a lot because now John's back, and so I cook for both of us. And he obviously is, first of all, he eats way more than I do. So it's like another thing for cooking for myself is that portions, right? Like I don't even eat like a regular sized meal. I eat like a tiny little person's meal. I'm 5'2", I'm a small person. I have a tiny stomach. So cooking for myself is a drag because it's just a waste of effort. cooking for both of us makes sense because then I cook like a big thing. I eat 1/4 of it and he eats 3/4 of it. So it's motivation for me to cook. And I'm encountering this super funny thing from you guys when I talk to you on Instagram and DMs or something. And you're like, you do what? You cook? And I realized that you guys think that I don't know how to cook. And then another funny thing that I'm encountering is like all of the people who are relatively new, I guess, who didn't even realize I have a husband, who are like, you cook for who? You're what? You're married what? To who? And so, yeah, so for everyone here who is new or recent, hi, my name is Yulia. I was born and raised in Lviv, Ukraine, and I moved to the United States at age 16, 12 years ago. And I've been living in New York City since. All my entire immediate family lives in Ukraine. I'm the only one in the United States. My parents are in Lviv, grandparents are in Lviv, everybody is in Lviv. Yes, I'm married to a man. He's American. Well, American. Well, he was born and raised here, but he is, he's a mix of things. And he was on tour for a very long time. So I think that people had assumed that I might have schizophrenia, and my husband is a manifestation of my visual hallucinations. But he is real, and he's actually going to be helping me a lot with YouTube, and he already has been. So please expect way better editing coming soon to briefs. So far, I have been editing them myself, and he's going to take over. Now, every day on this channel, I stream news for about an hour to 2 hours, depends on how much news we have. We break them down in terms of geopolitical, historical, and current events like relevant context. And hi, Diane, and basically dissect everything that happened in and pertaining to Ukraine in the past 24 hours. Also, then we have like a discussion and stuff like that. This newscast is airing on 4 platforms simultaneously. That is YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. If you are on either one of these platforms and you prefer a different one out of the ones that I've named, my handle is the same across all of my social media, so you can switch over by doing that. Now on YouTube on Wednesdays and Sundays now, I am going to be airing in under 20 minutes, basically videos under 20 minutes with a summary of everything that happened in the past 24 hours and highlights for the week. Hi, John. And those are going to be those basically originated on my channel in order to be able to deliver the news for you more efficiently. So twice a week, midweek, and end of the week, we're going to have news briefs instead of lives. And you guys are welcome to give me suggestions on things that you like, what you don't like about them so far. Keep in mind, editing is going to get much better. And I mean that because I am terrible at it. And John is a professional. So this is going to get much better. But other than that, please feel free to judge content. Please do actually also judge editing and everything. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would want improvement on, what you would want added, taken away, anything. So with that in mind, I'm going to be, the briefs right now are very fluid. They're going to basically be fine-tuned and they're going to be molded towards what you guys want them to be, because at the end of the day, the news are for your convenience. Someone's requesting to be a guest speaker on TikTok, and I'm going to say right away that, I don't know. I don't know what's, well, let me know what, so Crazy Cat's dad says, fresh news from Kharkiv. Sure, I would love to hear fresh news from Kharkiv, but I don't know, 1 second. But what are you talking about? But okay, well, 1 second, let me, give me 1 second. I'm just in the middle of going over everything that I needed to say. Hi, Kathleen. Good to see you. So basically there is someone requesting to be a guest speaker on live to tell us fresh news from Kharkiv. So I'm going to accept it, and you guys on YouTube are going to be able to hear it, but you're not going to be able to see it. However, you will be able to see it on TikTok. So let's see what's going on. Hello?
Hello, I'm inspired by you. You're so amazing. Well, right now we have some rockets present. I can say bomb present from Belgrade,
In
and they
Kharkiv.
fall in.
Mhm.
Well, we don't know about casualties at the moment.
So there was a missile strike on Kharkiv just now?
Not on the Kharkiv.
Uh-huh.
As we know about, we heard them.
Okay.
I mean, there was a sound and it was not loud, but we don't know any information at the moment about casualties,
Mm-hmm.
as I said before. But it was from Belgrade,
Mm-hmm.
and they striked in Chuguyev.
Chuhuyev,
It's
okay.
a city near Kharkiv.
Okay, yeah, I know where Chuhuyev is. I'm actually, you know what, I'm gonna pull up a map
Yeah,
because
I don't know what Chuguyev is, but maybe your followers
Yeah.
doesn't know what Chuguyev is. So it's near Kharkiv. Kharkiv is quite close to Russia. It's bordered with Russia, and we on the front line at the moment. Still,
Yeah.
well, so that's kind of all fresh from Kharkiv. At the moment, we keeping up and stay straight.
Is there an air raid still in Kharkiv or no?
What?
Is there an air raid siren still or
Not at the moment.
not at the moment? Okay.
I think I shouldn't say that.
Okay.
The missiles wasn't aimed to Kharkiv directly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say that too, probably. But when they aim to Kharkiv directly to our infrastructure, we hear the sirens. Right now, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Kharkiv is safe for the moment, but the other part of our region are. Chuguyev get a lot of damage, and whole region have had a lot of damage.
Yeah, and this is Kharkiv. So Kharkiv is here, Belgrade is here, and Chuhuyev is over here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really crazy to hear. I really hope that there aren't going to be any more missile strikes. But we never know what to.
They bombed in Kharkiv probably because they didn't succeed the previous time. They tried to destroy our infrastructure completely.
Yeah.
They did it because when it was a hell on earth here, our workers. Я не знаю, як це сказати англійською
Скажи
мовою,
українською.
ті, що комунальники.
It's basically like the not the first responder, the utility workers, the workers that restore the electrical grid.
Okay, so our utility workers, they do their jobs under the bombing.
Yeah.
There was gunfire, tanks fire, and минометы.
Grenade launchers.
Grenade launchers. They worked on the grenade launchers and they fixed everything they could.
Yeah.
To keep us alive, to give us warm electricity, gas, everything.
Yeah.
Heat.
Yeah.
They are our heroes. So
Yeah, Ukrainian like electrical workers and Ukrainian first responders and everybody who has anything to do with the utilities and civilian infrastructure and energy infrastructure have been working in insane conditions and making such crazy progress over what they have been trying to fix. It's honestly they deserve
Oh,
their own Hero of Ukraine medals.
that might be interesting for you. One time we had a huge strike and electricity were off.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when it was back
Mm-hmm.
at night, I can't imagine how it was done because it was -3 degrees by Celsius.
Celsius,
There
yeah.
was Celsius. It was snowing.
Yeah.
There was snowing and extremely windy. Wind was extreme, and I don't know. It was like, you know, you're lying in your bed trying to keep hitting yourself and your cats, and at that moment the light goes, "What? I'm here. Hello."
Yeah.
Someone said they did. They really deserve the medals. They wouldn't get it, unfortunately, but they did. They are deserving.
Yeah, honestly, all of our workers, everybody in Ukraine is doing their part, and it's amazing to see how the entire country came together, and everyone who has basically an ability to do something is utilizing it for the greater good of Ukraine, and it's a really, really comforting feeling.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was from our region.
Wait, that wasn't.
A video from like live.
Oh wow.
23:44. It was posted on 23:44 in Ukraine. I don't know what time it's.
Yeah, it's
Norwegian for American time, United States time.
It's 11 minutes ago when it happened. Yeah, so in the US it's 4:55 p.m. So almost.
Why don't sleep?
PM. So PM.
I'm always confusing that.
Yeah, no, PM is past mid. Past. Yeah, PM is basically like evening time.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm casually politics in our world. Great people and Russia have yourself don't listen to all politics in all worlds. Ukraine people and Russia have hearts. Yes, we all have hearts.
Yeah.
But oh yes, that's the thing I wanted to tell you a long time ago. The story.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should tell it in Ukraine.
Sure, I will translate.
You may use it later. Коротше, така історія. Зі мною, я живу в гуртожитку, зі мною жила дівчинка, вона прийшла о 8 ранку, 24-го, сказала, що війна почалась. Я така, опа, ну, привіт, добре, ну, залишайся тут, бо від мене швидше бігти до бомбосховища. Так от, в неї бабуся живе в Криму. І ну, ця дівчинка, якби я її прийняла як свою дитину, я намагаюся вирішити її психологічні проблеми, тому що в неї було тяжке життя. І бабуся дзвонила їй кожного вечора. В мене просто мозок зривався від того, що вона там їй розповідала, про що вона питала. Але ключове те, що вона ніколи не використовувала слово «війна». А коли дівчинка казала слово «війна», бойові дії, вона від цього просто так от, ну, якби переводила тему, вона відморожувалася, знову починала питати про її навчання. І ось Декілька місяців тому ця бабуся, вона поїхала до санаторію, де не було телевізору.
Ага.
Він там був, але в неї не було можливості його дивитися. Вона була зайнята, вона ні з ким не спілкувалася, вона нічого не читала, нічого не дивилася. І от дзвінок, і моя мала, вона не змогла знайти навушники, щоб мене не дратувати тими розмовами. І на гучній мові, бо вона робить манікюр мені, вони розмовляють. І бабуся каже: Жень, ну ти же там осторожні, у вас же війна. Людина 2 тижні не дивилася телевізор. Вже просто цей термін, вона його відторгала, вона просто не могла його промовити, це слово. Не могла. І тут 2 тижні без пропаганди, і так, опачки, Жень, у вас же там війна, будь осторожна. На минуточку, Женю один раз її ледь не рознесло снарядом біля Нової пошти, і один раз вона була в маршрутці, коли поруч впала збита ракета.
Нічого собі.
От про це все бабуся знає,
ви не проти,
але...
Ви не проти, якщо я перекладу, якщо я трошки перекладу, принаймні, щоб люди просто знали, про що ми говоримо?
Use it as you would like to use it, because it's important. Тобто, це настільки просто, я знаю про ці технології, я до 25 років збиралася в політику, і я знаю всі ці технології, як вони працюють. Не технологічно, я не добралася до того відділу, де вони створюються саме, виробляються.
Так.
25-й кадр, типу 25-й кадр. Але я знаю, як вони працюють, який в них результат. І просто, реально, я бачила раніше, як вони працюють, але в цей момент це просто був шок.
Я можу собі уявити.
Тобто, ви можете використовувати як завгодно, як хочете. На жаль, немає запису, тому що ми не очікували такого повороту. І, на жаль, такого повороту більше не буде, бо все, вона повернулася додому, вже телевізор, вже газети, і знову
вже
такі операція «Спасаем мирних». Мы по мирным, русские по мирным не целимся, мы же вас там спасаем. So, use it as you wish.
Yeah, I would love to translate it to everyone who is on the stream right now. Thank you so much for telling me the news and telling me the story. I think it's very important, and I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you requesting to join. That's very, very sweet of you. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate that you accept me, because I'm small and no one here.
Oh my gosh, no. I just usually when people request to go on the thing, it's like some crazy people that want to yell at me about propaganda. So I very rarely accept, but I remember you DM'd me on Instagram, I think, and I remembered your name. So
yeah, I did something like that. Some story.
Yeah.
I think that was this story, actually.
Oh, it might have been. I've been so slammed with DMs. I'm so sorry.
Well, it seems like sirens are on. I just don't hear them.
Okay. In Kharkiv region or Kharkiv city as well?
Region, not our part of the city.
Gotcha.
The house is big, as you know.
Yeah. Very big.
And
yeah.
We actually have siren for like 3 or 4 months. Before that, we didn't have any sirens.
Yeah.
in our around us, so we
Yeah.
didn't hear them. So when I was somewhere in other part of the city and I hear sirens, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
it's a siren.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
To his siren, not the rockets,
Yeah.
not the bombs.
Fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah, no, they've been
So
hitting Kharkiv really, really, really hard. Okay, well, if you don't mind, let me translate your story so people know what we talked about, and I will respond to you on Instagram as well. But I gotta start doing the news because if I don't start now, it's gonna be a 3-hour newscast. But thank you so much for telling me your story and requesting. And
well, thank you.
it's really
Thank
nice
you
to
for
meet you.
telling to USA. I saw some video from USA. I'm not sure how to tell conservatives or
Conservatives, yeah.
some conservatives probably who оправдывают Россию with using some videos from Ukraine, which just the jokes, fucking jokes, Sorry for jokes. Sorry for
It's
word.
okay.
And they, они оправдывают Россию. Вони реально оправдують Росію.
And that's Trump supporters. So basically, she's talking about she saw videos on TikTok or in other social media platforms, and it's conservatives. Rather, I would assume they're Trump supporters, most likely, that are justifying Russia's behavior based on like some videos they saw from Ukraine that are jokes and not even real. But yeah, that's a very so Tucker Carlson is a very big mouthpiece for Republicans, and Republicans use very similar. Current Republican Party that is still very loyal and reliant on Trump uses a lot of the same methods of brainwashing and propaganda as Russia does, because it looks like they largely took those methods from Russia anyways. So that's why they use these tactics, and that's why they do this. And there is like Tucker Carlson, who basically spits all of the same narratives as Solovyov does on American TV. So it's that's what it is. But yeah. Okay, well, if you want to chat or you have any questions or you want to just, I don't know, talk, I will find your message on Instagram, and it was a very nice chat, and thank you so much for joining. I'll translate your story to the audience so everybody knows what has been said. And thank you so very much for sharing.
Wow, thank you for fighting for Ukraine in USA. It's important because, well, you probably know why it's important. Yeah, that's why you're fighting, that's why you're talking, that's why you say what you say, and I'm so grateful for this. I'm not sure it was right said, but I said it right.
You did.
Дякую.
Дуже вам дякую також.
За те, що ви є, за те, що ви в Америці, за те, що і воюєте за Україну, тому що кожен, хто не закриває свого рота і не мовчить, він також є воїном України. Він також бореться за нашу свободу, за нашу незалежність.
Дуже дякую.
Я не буду включати камеру, я б могла включити камеру, але тут може трошки виникнути питання про те, що в мене бандерівський прапор на голові.
It's okay, напевно таке.
У мене немає бандерівського прапору на голові, у мене просто червоні косички і чорне волосся.
Це дуже кумедно.
Випадково вийшло, випадково, ні. Ну, знаєте, потім мене використають як, от, знаєте, тих нацистів, яких ніколи ніхто не бачив. Так, я відволіклася, я завершила всі підготовки, всі ритуали до можливого відключення світла.
Я сподіваюся, що світло вам не виключать.
Ну, то як пощастить. то як пощастить чи ні, не знаю, там ще на Холодну Гору їхати за 2 котами і речами, евакуювати їх трошечки. Тож, дуже вам дякую.
Дуже вам дякую. Спокійної вам ночі. Мирного
Цього
неба.
Харкова. Я не знаю, чи можу я представляти весь Харків, але я дякую вам від цього Харкова, який, можна сказати, просто зустрів в перші хвилини початку 24-го. Все це, і якщо чесно, то так, я сплю дуже міцно, просто вікно в мене вилітало. Я не знаю, як я проспала початок, але я проспала початок війни і...
Ну, це може і на краще.
Взагалі така, щоб проспати все, але 18 котів якось не дали. І 30 днів без світла також. 30 днів без світла, 18 котів, а ще 4879 котів зареєстрованих, 5798 собак зареєстрованих на гуманітарну допомогу, також не дали мені проспати початок війни. Я відключаюсь.
Окей, дуже вам дякую.
Цю історію. Я не знаю, чи безпечно використовувати цю історію, тому що коли я йшла в політику, ці технології, вони, як би то сказати, ніхто про них не казав. Це звучало якось так. Сделай вот это. А в рекламе будет вот это? Нам нужна изюминка, добавим перчинку. Мне нужна цель, еще какие цитаты были. Але це технології, які реально працюють і реально використовуються всюди.
Так, це є нормально, це типу нормальні політичні штуки. Окей.
Так, це нормальні політичні штуки, і зараз вони також використовуються. Це нормально, це інформаційна, це кібервійна продовжується, і вона використовується як і в нас. Я хочу, щоб ви це зрозуміли, що в Україні також використовуються технології, в Росії використовуються технології, і найстрашніше в Америці використовуються технології, тому я підписалася на вас, тому що ви поза цих технологій.
Дуже вам дякую, дуже дякую за довіру. Дуже дякую. Я, на жаль, маю відключитись, тому що у мене вже 37 хвилин в новини, і я маю почати їх розповідати, тому що я інакше не впишуся просто в свій час. Дуже вам дякую.
Guys, this girl is amazing, and all she say is really truth, because I'm here in Ukraine, in Kharkiv, from the first day of the war, and I know that when this girl open her mouth and say something, this is completely truth.
Thank you.
Bye, honey.
Bye, good night. Мирного вам неба.
Yeah, good night for me, okay.
Okay, so basically I want to tell you, I want to quickly translate the story that I was told so you guys can hear it as well. Basically, so she pretty much adopted a little girl, or a girl that now lives with her, and the girl's grandmother lives in Crimea, and in Russian Crimea, obviously, and she speaks Russian, she watches the news, she's incredibly brainwashed, and so when the grandmother calls the girl pretty constantly, I'm assuming it's the only family that she has, and so the grandmother would avoid saying the war. She knows all of the like crazy things that had happened to the girl, that there was, a mine that blew up next to her, that there was a fragment of a shell that landed next to her, and she would say special operation, and she would completely deny saying the word war, basically say that, you know, Russians are saving the girl, and like, you know, Ukrainians over there, they're not using force, they're not doing anything wrong, they're just liberating cities, you know, your standard Russian packed propaganda. And then no matter what they would do, no matter what they would say, basically this grandmother just would continue her Russia is good narrative, and Russia came to liberate you narrative, and there is no war, there is a special operation. And then the grandmother went to like this kind of like retreat for the elderly, and there was no TV there, no newspapers, no TV, no anything. And so the grandma calls the girl, and normally the girl wears headphones because, you know, it's just like no one around her wants to hear this grandma's narrative, and she always calls her and says the same thing and the same thing and the same thing, you know. And so she had her phone on the loudspeaker while they were like interacting or something, and grandma called, and grandma said basically, oh my gosh, Zhenya, it's the name of the girl, but there is a war going on in Ukraine. And everybody was like, so thank you, Netlin. And everybody was so shook, because this is, you know, she was in this retreat facility for 2 weeks with no TV, with no Russian propaganda, with no Russian newspapers, with no Russian narratives. And she was like, oh my gosh, there is a war going on. Are you okay? Like she finally started talking about it like in a real way. And then she came back to Crimea. The newspaper started again. Then and the newspaper started again, and the Russian TV started up again, and now we're back to square one, where grandma thinks that Russia came to liberate everybody. Russia doesn't target civilians. Russia doesn't target civilian infrastructure, and that Russia is liberating Ukraine from whatever it is that they say they're liberating Ukraine from, and she's back to calling it the special operation. So the moral of the story, you know, is that the propaganda is incredibly strong, and that these people, when they're not listening to this propaganda, when they're not watching it, there is a chance of explaining to them exactly what's going on. So the way I want to use it is that, you know, for all of you who say things like, oh, those Russians who immigrated abroad, who still like love Putin and might not understand what's happening in Ukraine, those who immigrated, right, who have access to free press and stuff. And you know, it's because they've been brainwashed for so long. It's like, yeah, but you know, this is an elderly grandma who didn't have access to propaganda for 2 weeks, and she could understand what was going on until she went back to the propaganda central. So for those Russians who live abroad for years and years and years, or have moved and they've been there for months, for them to not understand what's going on is ridiculous. Because honestly, when you have access to information, you have access to information, and you choose to stay in the information bubble you're in. So that's how I want, this is the like sort of, you know, the moral of the story that I want to draw here. Now, with that said, because we are 40 minutes into the broadcast, hi Frank. And also, thank you so much, Netlin. For those of you who are on YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, I'm also streaming on TikTok. And on TikTok, they have these like gifts. They're little animation gifts. I don't know if you guys know, because I don't know if you use TikTok, but basically they're very cute. And there is this hot air balloon animation, and it's one of my favorite things on the planet, because I have this hot air balloon tattoo that has like a story behind it that I might tell again one day, but I already did. So I don't want to come back to it. But yeah, so it was very sweet. And so I wanted to thank Netlin again. With that said, let's dive into the news for today. Basically, moral of the story is stop looking for excuses for Russians. And if you watch my newscasts, and here's the thing, like, you know, I've heard people online tell me, thank you, Frank, that I am radical, because I talk about not platforming good Russians. I talk about all of these things, and like, it's funny to me that I am classified as radical. I have firm views and I have firm beliefs. And if you watch my newscasts, it's not that I'm saying them just because, oh, well, Russia bad, Russians bad, right? I give you a pretty deep dive into historical, political, psychological, even context of why I say these things. I told you that Natasha from Russia is a propagandist hired by Kremlin in March. And in March, people were telling me, oh my gosh, no, I mean, she's Russian and she's pro peace and she might not understand things and her things are not always accurate, but she's not a Kremlin project. She's not. She's just Russian and like she's anti-war. She just like, she's brainwashed in some ways. And then 2 days ago, there was an immaculate amount of evidence that came out that she is, in fact, a Russian propaganda project. And here's the thing, like when I say these things, like it could have been, it could have been a coincidence that I was right, but I had a feeling because I saw the way it was done. It was a very carefully crafted Russian propaganda piece because it was aimed to gain your trust as a Russian who is against the war, as a Russian who criticizes the government, which, by the way, she would have been in jail for, so she's allowed to criticize the government. But basically, the character and persona that Russian propaganda created for you is basically this woman who criticizes the Russian government, who is pro-Ukrainian, but she will then sprinkle propaganda here and there, but it will look like just her opinion and critical thinking because she's not just saying yes to everything. Right? She is just being reasonable. It's like, yes, well, Ukraine, it's bad that we invaded Ukraine and screw Putin, but and things like that. And this is one of the most dangerous propagandas because it is so subtle. And that's what I was saying from the very beginning. And everybody was telling me that I just hate Russians and I'm radical. And it's like, okay, well, but I have reasons and grounds to say this. So this is what I'm saying. Yes, I might have a lot of very firm views, but please believe me, when I say things, I don't say them just because I want to say them. I say them because I have done research and because I have very deep reason to believe so. And normally I voice that reason and I voice that reason and also I walk you through it. So the choice whether to believe me or not is yours, but 99 out of 100 times, like it's grounded. It's grounded because I have done a plethora of research behind it. So that's what I wanted to say. I said my piece. I don't like when Russian bloggers are being platformed, period. But normally I don't consider them propaganda. I just consider them ignorant colonizers who are never going to understand what we went through. And them talking about the war in Ukraine is just inappropriate because, well, it's kind of like, here's my example. One of the reasons why I absolutely despise when people tell me that they like this Russian because he's a good Russian or that Russian because he's a good Russian. Like there are a couple of people on my YouTube who watch the Russian dude and Zach the Russian or like whatever, right? I don't think they're bad people. I don't. Should they have a platform speaking about Ukraine and the war in Ukraine from the perspective of Ukraine? Absolutely not. Why? Because a Russian talking about the events of the war in Ukraine and giving you perspective and context is ludicrous. They can't give you an accurate explanation of why and who and where and what this war is because they're not Ukrainian. A Russian person giving you the news and the context behind this invasion of Ukraine by Russia from the Ukrainian side and on the Ukrainian side is the same as a white person telling you how a minority feels when being discriminated against or when being racially profiled. I can't tell you that because I don't know. I'm not a minority. I've never faced racism or discrimination like that. I can tell you how an immigrant feels when they're being discriminated, but I can't tell you how someone who is African American feels, or how someone who is Mexican feels, or how someone who is Indian feels, or how someone who's Pakistani feels, because I've never gone through this. And so please do me a favor, and I beg you, at least on my channel, please stop recommending to me the good Russians who talk about the war in Ukraine, because what they're doing is they're monetizing on this war. If they wanted to be good Russians and they wanted to make progress, they should be having YouTube channels talking in Russian to Russians. And then another thing is that pisses me off so much that I just want to genuinely I have a gag reflex every single time is all of these good Russians have that new Russia flag hanging on their wall or whatever, and that's the white, blue, and white, right? And that's all good and all, but right next to that flag, they will have a Ukrainian flag and they will put them together. And you know what the problem with that is that it's still a colonizing mentality, because what they're trying to say is the new Russia will be friends with Ukraine. But what they should understand is that they should leave us alone and let us process it and be okay with the fact that we're not going to want to be friends with them or have anything to do with them for centuries to come. And so this entire like rhetoric of imposing themselves on us and being like, oh, but I'm a good Russian, I'm for the new Russia, and the new Russia and Ukraine are going to be besties because the new Russia is a different Russia. And it's like, leave us alone. Please stop imposing this rhetoric of Ukraine and Russia need to be friends once Russian government and whatever changes. Well, once that happens, once all of the people change their mentality, once you admit that you've stolen our history, once you stop with your colonizing rhetoric, once this like brotherly nation situation is done, once years and years have passed and we have healed from the trauma imposed collectively by you, then we'll talk. For now, stop imposing the freaking friendship onto us. Like, these Russian liberals are like, well, but with the new Russia, Ukrainians are going to be friends with us. It's like, okay, but right now we're going through a genocide from the Russia that exists currently, and the new Russia doesn't seem to even be in the plan because there are not enough of you. Most of you are okay with what's happening. So can you please just stop? And then conclusive thing that I want to say is when you watch Russian people, Zach the Russian dude, whoever, you are perpetuating talking about the war in Ukraine, no matter whether they have relatives in Ukraine, no matter whether they visited Kharkiv at some point, no matter whether they went to Kyiv for summers. Once you do that, once you watch them and you consider them a valid source of information about Ukraine, you perpetuate the brotherly nations narrative because you assume that a Russian person can accurately describe to you and give you accurate context with nuance of why this war happened, how people in Ukraine are feeling, and what is happening in Ukraine. And they can't, because they're not Ukrainian, but you are giving them credibility as like, oh, but they're basically the same. It's like they all go through this and that and that. Like, no, we don't go through the same thing. They have never been colonized by themselves. They have never been colonized by Russia, especially the white regular Russians. They have never been Ukrainian. They have never been in our shoes. They have never gone through a genocide. They have never gone through their language being oppressed. They have never gone through any of these things. They don't understand the nuance of history, culture, and emotion of this war. And that is honestly, one of the biggest driving forces behind this war. So please stop platforming and giving platform and recommending Russians who are talking about the war in Ukraine. There are enough Ukrainians doing it. And I know that I've spent so much time just now ranting about it, but it's like, it hurts. It genuinely hurts. And I see a lot of very big Western creators like Jake Bro, like other people, consistently platforming Russians and saying they're so brave for speaking about the war in Ukraine, and people commanding them on it, being like, I wish more Russians did that. I don't. I wish Russians stuck to talking about Russia. Why would more Russians need to talk about Ukraine and what's happening in Ukraine? Talk about what Russia is doing to Ukraine from a perspective of a Russian who wants to change Russia, not from a perspective of a person who is like, I am so liberal and I support Ukraine. This is what's happening in Bucha. This is what happened in Bakhmut. You can find out from me, from a plethora of Ukrainian creators. Stop using Russians for your news about Ukraine. I wish that they stuck talking about Russia. And I wish that Western people understood how damaging it is to platform a creator who put a freaking Ukrainian map with the Ukrainian flag inside the freaking new Russia flag. I will show you what I mean. Like, it is so freaking damaging, and I'm so tired of seeing it. And that is not to say anything bad about Jake Bro or anyone like that. No, I think their analysis is good. Like, I watch them. It's just that an American person will never understand what it's like. And an American person shouldn't make an executive decision to platform a Russian talking about the war in Ukraine without consulting a bunch of Ukrainians on it. Because most of us feel disgusted by it and we don't want to see it. And a Russian dude sitting in America who never wanted to go back to Russia to begin with, speaking out against Putin and about the war in Ukraine, is not freaking brave. And people will then be like, well, he donated and he went to protest. So did you. So did a million Americans and Europeans. Are we putting them on a pedestal for doing that? No. Stop putting Russians on a pedestal for doing the bare minimum. I'm going to show you what I mean. So here, I'm going to use an example from someone says, so you only want your narrative to be outstanding. I know you're a troll, but I'm going to answer it anyway. No, it's not my narrative. It's that Ukrainians should be talking about how it feels to be Ukrainian, not Russians should be talking about how it feels to be Ukrainian. Anyways, so here is exactly the issue that I'm talking about. So here is this Russian Zach person, and here is the new Russia flag with Ukraine inside of it. First of all, I understand that he did similar thing with like America and Ukraine here, right? This is okay, but this is not okay because this is a Ukraine inside a Russian flag. That is such bad subliminal messaging. Also incredibly inappropriate. And you should know this because I know that this is the style of thumbnails that he does, but you can't put Ukraine into a flag of Russia. No matter whether it's the new Russia, whether it's your thumbnail stuff, then change the thumbnail, but this is not appropriate. You can't do that. It's awful messaging. And like, I flinched when I saw that. You cannot put a map of Ukraine into a Russian flag. Terrible messaging. Also, you cannot put a Russian flag of any kind. New Russia, Russia 3,045 years later, Russia 7,000 years later. I don't care. Old Russia, Soviet Union. Do not put that next to a Ukrainian flag as in like, oh, friends or whatever, because it is our decision. And the world needs to let us make that decision. If we don't want to ever have anything to do with Russia, then the world needs to be okay with that. And we have the full right after 300 years of mass murders of Ukrainians by Russians. Don't push us into the friendship with the new Russia, the good Russia, the Russia of tomorrow, the Russia of the day after tomorrow, the Russia of 4,355th year. Stop pushing us. Stop putting Ukrainian flags and hearts next to each other with the Russian flag. Stop putting a Ukrainian flag next to a Russian flag. And for damn sure, never, ever, under any circumstance, and I don't care what your thumbnail style is, never put a map of Ukraine into a flag of Russia. Ever. Oh, and stop platforming Russians who talk about the war in Ukraine. Genuinely start platforming Ukrainians who talk about the war in Ukraine. Because I doubt that people would be platforming Germans who would be telling you about how it felt to be a Jew during the Holocaust. Why? Why would you not listen to a German talking about how it would feel to be a Jew during the Holocaust? Maybe because Germans are not Jews who went through the Holocaust, and maybe because Germans saw it from a different perspective because they're Germans. So why is it that we are so eager to platform good Russians? They're not Ukrainian. It is not their business to do this. They have no right, and you shouldn't be perpetuating that right. Now, thank you for listening to my rant, and I'm going to show you a post that has graphic content on it. Right, exactly why we should stop platforming Russians. Local residents who helped the police, forensic experts, and war crimes prosecution teams to exhume a burial site containing the bodies of 6 civilians that were executed by Russian forces in the yard of a house in the recently liberated town of Pravdina. Take a moment to recover from the smell after digging the victims' bodies out of the grave on the outskirts of Kherson on November 28, 2022. 8 people were killed at the house when an informant told Russian forces the civilians were passing on information to Ukrainian military sources. The bodies were found with their hands tied, blindfolded, and shot at close range in the back of the head. Afterwards, the house was blown up and the bodies were later buried in a grave next to the house by local residents. I'm going to show you one of the photos. I'm not going to show all of them because I don't want YouTube to be upset. And some of them are too much to show. Yep. Scholz promised to support Ukraine until the victory in the war. We will continue to support Ukraine as long as necessary, economically, financially, humanitarian, through the reconstruction of the destroyed energy infrastructure, as well as with weapons, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said at the Berlin Security Conference. Ukraine should be able to exercise its legitimate right to self-defense, but also serves to protect the European security architecture, Scholz said. He's convinced that Russia cannot and will not win the war it has unleashed. Here's a quote from him. The relentless attacks on vital infrastructure, on water and energy networks, on Ukrainian cities and villages are a terrible and at the same time desperate scorched earth strategy, the head of the German government said. Russian occupiers shelled Kherson once again today, as a result of which the city lost power. The Russian liberators, who wanted Kherson so much because it's the ethnically Russian land, and they came to liberate all the Russian speakers that were so mistreated in there, have been shelling Kherson daily and incessantly since they have been pushed out of the city. That's how much they care about the residents, and that's how much they care about the city. Bild published satellite images of the Eagles 2 airfield, Saratov region, Russia, taken by Maxar service. There are almost 24 long-range bombers, Tu-95 and Tu-160, at the airport. Experts told the publication about high activity at the airfield, which may indicate that Russia is preparing for a new missile strike on Ukraine. Take a look. Croatian MP Zekanovic tore a piece of paper with a Z symbol while discussing the country's participation in the EU Commission to train Ukrainian military. Either you are for Ukraine or hang the sign in front of the door. Earlier, President Milanovic opposed the training of Ukrainian military in Croatia. To overcome his veto, the consent of at least 2/3 of Croatian MPs is required. So this is what they're trying to do. And I think it's a very strong gesture to say either you're for Ukraine or hang this symbol on your forehead, because you're trying to save face and you're trying to stay in a good relationship with Russia, just in case. Priests of the UOC, Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Moscow Patriarchy, could be exchanged for Ukrainian soldiers. If there was such a proposal, suggests representative of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense, Yusuf. A lot of them were arrested because after search and rescue on the premises of the churches in which they preach, they have found Russian documentation, propaganda newsletters, Russian narratives. Basically, all of the Russian patriarchy priests are Kremlin propagandists who have been spreading the hateful narratives against Ukrainians. Decisive missile attack is a powerful information on Ukraine, head of the press center of the South military operation. Thus, the enemy is trying to influence and intimidate the population. Amazon provides Ukraine with $75 million of support. A memorandum of cooperation for 2023 was signed. After the explosion at the embassy of Ukraine in Madrid, similar envelopes with explosive devices were received by the office of the Prime Minister of Spain, the Ministry of Defense of this country, a military airbase, and the weapons manufacturer Instalaza, which supplies its products to Ukraine. Let me remind you that yesterday, Wednesday, which you can hear in the news brief that I posted today. Sorry, I need to take a sip of coffee. I'm still a bit under the weather, so pardon. But basically what I was trying to say is yesterday there was a terrorist attack on the Ukrainian embassy in Madrid. The employee of the embassy, unfortunately, was injured because he received an envelope and opened it, and the envelope contained the explosive device in it. So this is a continuation of a series of little terrorist attacks on Spain. In Ladizhin, Vinnytsia region, heat supply has been restored, without which the whole city, 18,000 people, have been living. After a missile attack on November 25th on the local thermal power plant, an accident occurred in the heating network. So they were without heat, sorry, and electricity for 5 days. Oh my gosh, Not a Butter says, sorry you're under the weather. Hopefully you can be over the rainbow soon. I really like that. That's a very cute way to say that. Also, let me see. This light for some reason is annoying me, and I'm sure it might be annoying some of you as well. So let me make this light a little warmer because I feel like it's, oh, there we go. This is better, right? Because it's much warmer and it's not nearly as like ridiculous. Okay, because I feel like the previous light was just so green or so blue. Hi, Anne. Thank you so much. A plastic production workshop is on fire near Moscow in Remenskaya. According to information, the fire covered 900 square meters. This is crazy because there were 3 fires yesterday and 1 the day before. And all of them are at warehouses, oil facilities. So one of the fires yesterday was at a plastic storage warehouse. So that's one. The other one was in Perm at an oil facility, and the other one, Hainan area, was in a like a pre-Ukraine border area, and it was at CHP, which is crazy. So another one was the other day, also in a pre-Ukraine border area. And now there's this one in Moscow at a plastic production workshop. To me, it seems like they are plastic production workshops and a plastic storage warehouse, but it's probably actually it's been repurposed into an ammo base, because why would somebody burn that? I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying that as a fact. I am speculating that most likely there is something else that's being stored in those warehouses. MiG-31 took off over the territory of Belarus. After it activates, an air alarm signal is immediately sent throughout the country. Losses of the Russian occupiers in Ukraine as of today are 89,440 personnel. Belaruski Gayun reports that all 3 MiG-31K, which have been stationed at the airfield in Machulishche since October, are flying to Russia. Due to their takeoff, air alarm was sounded in Ukraine. Communities of the Austrian cities of Tulln, Meiningen, and Heinbach donated 3 fire trucks to Ukraine. The Steyr truck arrived as part of the 52nd humanitarian convoy from Austria to Ukraine. This was reported by the State Emergency Service of Transcarpathian region. Another exchange of prisoners took place. Ukraine returned 50 defenders this time. The head of the OP says, "We returned the defenders of Mariupol and Azovstal, returned prisoners who were in Olenivka, wounded, in particular in the battles in Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia directions." Take a look. Here are some of the guys that were able to come back home. Some of them are obviously wounded, and it's really, I get incredibly happy when the wounded come back, because I know that they're not being attended to in Russian captivity. Also, Armin's quote of the day is up, so I'm going to read it. For those of you who don't know, Armin on YouTube always sends a quote of the day every day. An old Russian proverb is, "The less you know, the better you'll sleep." They believe ignorance is bliss. They don't want to understand. This is why Renaissance love of learning never happened there. Yeah. Меньше знаешь, крепче спишь. Also, Taz is asking if any of them are from Azov Regiment. The information is not there, so I wouldn't know, but I will try and find out later. So today is okay. So this is something that I was talking about in the news brief. So the Europarliament was thinking of a strategy under which they could freeze billions of assets of Russian oligarchs, that rather seize billions of assets of Russian oligarchs that have been frozen to help Ukraine basically as reparations. So today, Switzerland has frozen Russian assets worth almost $8 billion and arrested 15 objects, the Ministry of Economy of the country reports. So if they come up with the way of transferring that to Ukraine as reparations, there is going to be a very, very big amount of money that will be transferred to Ukraine to be able to repair what Russia has destroyed. Hi, Smiley. Also, today is a big day for Ukraine. On this day in 1990, the referendum on independence of Ukraine was held. On December 1st, 1991, 90.92% of voters gave an affirmative answer to the question, do you confirm the act of independence of Ukraine? There was not a single region, not a single settlement where the idea of Ukraine's independence would not find support of the majority of citizens. In particular, in the Crimea region, it was 54.19% of citizens voted for independence. In Sevastopol, 57.07%. In Donetsk, Luhansk, Odessa, and Kharkiv regions, more than 80% of citizens expressed their will to have their own state. In Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, Ternopil, Volyn, Rivne, Zhytomyr, Kyiv, Khmelnytsky, Cherkasy, Vinnytsia, more than 95% of citizens voted yes. So to anyone who says that, no one in the East wanted Ukraine to be independent, that's not true. Over 80% in each region. West, over 95% in each region. Crimea was 54.19%. And a lot of the people who voted no were probably Russians that were brought into Crimea. In November, the Ukrainian military liberated about 3,850 square kilometers of Ukraine's territory. According to European war researchers, these figures mean that the Russian army has now occupied about 16.66% of Ukraine's territory. This is about 0.64% less than the total area of the country as of the end of October. Our 245,000 square kilometers are also waiting for liberation. Oh my gosh. So there is an update on the raccoon, and it's actually quite hilarious. So I'm going to demonstrate it to you. But do you remember the raccoon, the private raccoon, basically the raccoon that everybody is joking about? So that raccoon that was stolen from the Kherson Zoo by the occupiers, he today went to meet with pseudo head of the Kherson region. And take a look how that went, because I would say it went really good for the raccoon, but didn't go nearly as great for the pseudo head of the region. So, the raccoon is definitely a Ukrainian citizen, I'll tell you that.
Аккуратнее. Не прокусил. Ну ничего. Значит, служит, молодец. Разволновался много народу. Ну да, наверное, он запсиховался.
Сейчас, знаете, что там петиция на сайте Зеленского публикуют. Они говорят, что хотят обменять енота на памятники, там еще на что-то. Готовы отдать.
So basically, what's going on there is that the raccoon was biting this pseudo head, and then the journalist is like, well, how do you feel about all these petitions on the website of Zelensky about exchanging the raccoon? Are you gonna exchange him? And I find it so funny because you don't need to exchange the raccoon. We're gonna liberate him. This whole raccoon situation has gotten out of control, but also you see that even the raccoon doesn't want to be anywhere near the Russian authorities. The U.S. Embassy in Madrid also received a letter with explosives, similar to 5 bomb letters sent to the Ukrainian embassy in Spain and other targets in the country, La Sexta TV reported on Thursday. So this is this is growing into an act of mass terrorism, basically. U.S. considers training 2,500 Ukrainian soldiers a month in Germany, as per CNN. Under the new program, the U.S. would train much larger groups of Ukrainian soldiers in more sophisticated combat tactics, including coordinating infantry maneuvers with artillery support. LOL, are raccoons native to Ukraine and Europe? No, they don't scavenge through our trash, so they're more of like a zoo animal, you know, they're like a rarity. So yeah, so that's why there is a raccoon in a zoo. In November, Ukrainian military cleaned the territory of Ukraine of 16,970 soldiers, the largest number in the entire period of the full-scale war. First Lady of Turkey, Emin Erdogan, visited orphans evacuated from Odessa. Lithuania will purchase a batch of winter clothes for Ukrainian military, the Ministry of Defense of Lithuania says. It is about providing 25,000 Ukrainian military with winter clothes. More than 2 million euros will be spent on this. Deputy Prime Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic integration. There is a consensus in NATO on Ukraine's membership. We have made progress in the issue of approximation to NATO. At the last ministerial meeting in Bucharest, all 30 NATO member countries agreed on the need to grant Ukraine membership in the alliance. Well, now we also have one of the most combat-ready militaries in the world because we're the only military that has experienced like a World War II scale war, basically. Alexander Usyk, which is a famous Ukrainian boxer. Oh, thank you, Nomad Cat. Thank you so much. That's really, really sweet of you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Alexander Usyk, who is a famous Ukrainian boxer, donated $50,000 for generators for Ukrainian hospitals. United 24 continues United 24 continues a large-scale collection to help heroic Ukrainian doctors who save lives by flashlights. Bear Grylls met with President Zelensky of Ukraine. Take a look. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said that 2 Ukrainian embassies abroad, in addition to the embassy in Spain, also received letters with very specific threats. Kuleba spoke about a new form of terror that has all the signs of a purposeful, large-scale campaign against Ukraine. Well, yeah, they're targeting all of the facilities that help Ukraine, all of the embassies that help Ukraine, basically partner country embassies in Spain. And of course, it does look like it's largely about Ukraine. And it does look like a mass terrorist campaign. And if someone is in Madrid, if someone is in Spain right now, please be careful, especially if you work in government facilities, because it does look like a targeted terrorist attack, and it doesn't look like it's over yet. Russian military withdraws units from some settlements in Zaporizhia region. In the temporarily occupied territories of Zaporizhia region, Russian troops are withdrawing some units and preparing for evacuation. The personnel occupying administrations. Units based in the local police station and one of the educational institutions left Mikhailivka. In Polohe and Inzhernerne, the invaders are leaving the building where they were stationed, taking out the stolen property. In Burchak, the occupying authorities are conducting a census for the so-called voluntary evacuation of the population. Yes, so-called voluntary evacuation. Basically, they're conducting a census to kidnap more Ukrainians into Russia. Armin says, I propose we offer to give the Russians Kanye in exchange for that raccoon. The raccoon would be free and Kanye would be in a place where government officials speak like he speaks. That is incredibly true. I support that message wholeheartedly. Germany handed over another batch of military equipment to Ukraine. 3 Brever bridge building tanks, 8 surface drones, 12 vehicles for border protection, spare parts for Mi-24 helicopters, 30 ambulances, 4,000 sleeping bags. Those sleeping bags are incredibly necessary, especially in the front line in Bakhmut. 4 Gepard anti-aircraft guns are being prepared for shipment. NSDC instructed the government to submit to the Rada a bill to prevent the activities of religious organizations affiliated with centers of influence in Russia in Ukraine. We will ensure full independence for our state, in particular spiritual independence. We will never allow anyone to build an empire inside the Ukrainian soul. As you know, the Russian Patriarchy or the Moscow Patriarchy has been taking over a lot of Ukrainian Orthodox churches, and they preach the ideology of Russian world, which that ideology basically consists of the genocide of Ukrainians, and Ukraine not being a real nation, and Ukrainian not being a real language. That is all I have for today from my news source. Let's check the Kyiv Independent, because you guys know I like going over it just to sort of see the summary for the day. So we're going to quickly summarize everything that we talked about already and maybe hear some new information, because sometimes Kyiv Independent has some new things. Institute for the Study of War says fighting near Bakhmut in Donetsk Oblast reveals failures of Russian army. Russian efforts near Bakhmut in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk Oblast indicate that Russia has fundamentally failed to learn from previous high-casualty campaigns, the Institute for the Study of War said in its latest update. So I have been hearing that a lot of people are saying that, Ukrainians are going to have to retreat from Bakhmut and that Bakhmut is not going great for Ukrainians. So yes, it's a very high-casualty place. The battles are incredibly fierce. Bakhmut is not an easy place to be, and Bakhmut is seeing high casualties. Bakhmut is seeing high fatalities. Bakhmut is a very, 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 very difficult place to be in right now. But at the same time, Russia is having the highest number of casualties and fatalities in Bakhmut, and they really, really are trying to put all of their resources there. So all things considered, Ukraine is doing much better in that front area than Russia is. And Russia is really concentrating all of their resources. With that said, Bakhmut is hell on earth, and Ukrainian military really needs a lot of help there because they need winter gear, they need waterproof gear, they need so much stuff because basically they are fighting from wet, muddy trenches. Voltage in Kherson power grid collapses due to Russia's shelling. As a result of Russian forces' constant shelling of Ukraine's southern city of Kherson, the voltage in the city's power grids has disappeared. According to Yanushevich, the local energy company Kherson Oblenergo is already working on fixing the problem. Russia's military attacked 7 Ukrainian oblasts over the past day. Those are Sumy, Donetsk, Kherson, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, and Luhansk. UK Defense Ministry says Russia's strategy of attacking Ukraine's critical infrastructure is becoming less effective. Russia is attempting to implement the concept of a strategic operation for the destruction of critically important targets in its full-scale war to demoralize the population and ultimately force the state's leaders to capitulate. The UK Defense Ministry reported on December 1st. Here is the funny thing. The more infrastructure Russia, I saw this video from a Ukrainian person, and she was basically sitting there and she was like, so my dear Ukrainians, right now that I'm sitting in Kyiv with an air raid, no electricity, no water, and all this stuff, are you thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I wish Ukraine conceded. Oh my gosh, I hope that our military just gives up. No, right? And she's like, who would think that way? The more they target us, the more they hit us, the more they do these things, the more angry we become and the more ready to fight we are, because we don't ever want to have them on our land. So on the contrary, we're not going to give up because you try to hurt us. The more you hurt us, the more we don't want you here and the more we're going to push you out of here. Crazy. France, its partners discuss creation of special tribunal for Russia's crimes. France has started to work with international partners, including Ukraine, on a proposal to set up a special tribunal to investigate Russia's war crimes during its full-scale war, the French Foreign Ministry reported. Czech government approves extension of temporary protection visas for Ukrainians. DTEK reports Russia attacks energy enterprise on December 1st, injuring 2. Spain's PM sent letter bombs similar to the one exploded in Ukraine's embassy. Switzerland freezes almost 8 billion in Russian assets under EU sanctions. 50 Ukrainian defenders return home. Presidents office head Andriy Yermak said Russia had released 50 Ukrainian prisoners of war under the prisoner exchange. Energoatom fires engineer Russia made head of occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Ukraine's state nuclear energy operator Energoatom head Petro Kotin on December 1st fired Yuri Chernichuk, acting chief engineer of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, for collaborating with Russia. On November 30th, Russia's state nuclear power operator Rosatom said it made Chernichuk run the Russian-occupied nuclear power plant. Media says U.S. Embassy in Madrid also received a letter bomb. Parliament appoints Infrastructure Minister Kubrakov as Deputy PM for Restoration of Ukraine. SBU, Security Bureau of Ukraine, finds Russian propaganda, xenophobic literature in Moscow Patriarchate Monastery in Zakarpattia Oblast. Every single time they do a raid onto a Moscow Patriarchy church, they find a lot of Russian propaganda, they find a lot of collaborating materials, and all of those priests have Russian passports. The Security Service of Ukraine said it had found brochures where Ukraine's right to independence is denied, while stating that Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus cannot be divided. Reznikov believes Russia to be behind letter bomb attacks in Spain. Reznikov is the Ukrainian Minister of Defense. Here's what he had to say. The world is beginning to recognize that Russia is a terrorist state, and terror knows no borders. They use terrorist means to cause terror. Earlier in the same day, yet another letter bomb was found at the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, according to the Spanish newspaper El País. SBU to us, Security Bureau of Ukraine, FBI. Previously, similar explosives were sent to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and Defense Minister Margarita Robles. Other bombs were sent to Ukrainian embassy in Madrid, the Torrejon de Ardoz Air Base in Madrid, and the headquarters of Spanish weapons manufacturer Instalatza, which produces rocket launchers supplied to Ukraine. So here's the thing, once Russia was recognized as a terrorist state, they said that this decision was absurd, went and started committing more terrorist acts than ever. Brilliant. Brilliant. General Staff says Russian troops withdraw from some settlements in Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Reuters says EU governments tentatively agree on a $60 a barrel price cap on Russian seaborne oil. Biden and Macron condemn Russia's war pledge more air defense for Ukraine. Zelensky says Security Council proposes banning Russian churches' Ukrainian branch. Yes, 100%. Ukrainian soldiers to train on Czech territory. And that is all that I have for you for today. Привет, Vyacheslav. Thank you for listening, and thank you for staying current on the news about Ukraine. Please let me know if you have any questions, suggestions, discussions, or anything like that. And I am happy to answer those for you. And I'm happy to stay a while and chat a little bit. But as we all know, I'm terrible at eating and I'm terrible at remembering things like that. So I am getting quite hungry and I could use eating some dinner. Has any person employed from Russia contacted you? I don't mean just an ordinary online troll. I don't know what you mean. I don't think so. Thank you, Mariana. I don't think so. I really don't. No one from Russia has been contacting me, to be honest. Thank you for the news. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Drake. Thank you, everyone. Forgot to, Kat, don't start. I bet you also have a 1/2 empty drink close by. No, so I have coffee and it's not half empty. It's like 3/4 full. When do they put the Wagner group on the terrorist list? I hope soon, because at this point, Wagner is hiring allegedly from the Central African Republic prisons, and they're hiring people that are like on death row or serving life in prison and stuff like that, which is crazy. Coffee milk, not yerba mate. Yes, coffee milk today. Yerba mate was in the morning when I was editing the video. I want to know, how has it affected you? What do you mean? How has the war affected me? Well, for one, I don't sleep very well. I don't sleep very much at all. I often flinch at sirens, even though I am not in the middle of air raids, but because I'm always on the phone with my family, and because I'm always I'm very much, in the middle of all of this. When I hear an ambulance, I flinch because, I don't. There is a lot of psychological damage that happens to anyone who is related to the war in Ukraine in any sort of way. Yeah, change in employment. There is a lot that has really, really changed in my life since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Some things are good, some things are awful. How hasn't it affected her? Yeah, that's true. All right, guys, I'm going to go grab some food because at this point my stomach is growling. Yulia, do you live in Ukraine? No, I live in New York for the past 12 years. My family lives in Ukraine. My mom, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa. Everybody. Thank you, Pat Poems. I wanted to know, not demanding. Thanks for the... No, it's okay. I mean, it's okay. Alrighty, guys. Good night. I might see you later just to chat because, why not? But for now, thank you and have a good night, and I will see you later. Please don't forget to watch the Wednesday news brief. Don't forget to like the stream. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube if you don't follow me on YouTube. And don't forget to leave a comment on a bunch of my YouTube videos because it helps more people see the news. Bye.